A couple weeks ago, I went to a local bookstore to have a cup of coffee and do client work on my laptop. After getting my matcha latte, I went to find a quiet corner to work in. But before I was able to sit down, I passed a young woman reading a well known gut health book. And I just had to ask, what do you think about the book? What do you think about the book? I wasn't really sure if she was going to be willing to answer me, but she actually was very open to conversation. She said, "It's okay. Have you read it?" Yes. I paused and then I was trying to decide would I really tell her what I thought. I didn't like it. She looked really surprised, and over the next few minutes, I explained that I'm a gut health specialist. I had to heal my own gut and hormones from IBS, 2 years of having no period and losing my hair, and this was all after doctors told me my labs look normal. I read that book she had in her hand, and it didn't heal me. Now, I know why at this point in time, but I was really sad and confused at the time when I did read this book in 2015 that the quote unquote best literature out there on gut health really didn't help, and neither did the doctors. The young woman, who I learned had recently graduated from nursing school just that week, asked me, "What would you recommend me to read?" It was out of that question that this episode was born. On today's episode, I'm going to share the top 3 best and worst gut health books that I've read, all based on how effective they have been on helping me and my clients heal. Whether you want to save time by knowing what not to read, or you are looking for a new list of books to dive into that may actually help you, then this episode is for you. Hey friend, welcome to the Better Belly Podcast. If you're currently trying endless supplements, doctor visits, and diet changes to heal your mystery symptoms, you are in the right place. We're here to solve the real root causes behind your gut, hormone, skin, sleep, and brain concerns. Literally anything and everything in your body. My name is Allison Jordan. I'm a functional medicine practitioner that has supported over 150 clients just like you to heal problems that no one has been able to fix. You don't need a perfect diet or a random supplement you found on Instagram to heal. You need a proven system that heals your whole body from the inside out. That's what I'm here to share with you, episode by episode. It's time to make health easy again. And just as a reminder, this information is not meant to diagnose, manage, or treat disease. Always consult with your own health practitioner before you make any changes to your health. All right, guys. So I want to open this conversation by saying for the 3 books that I'm going to call the worst in terms of how much they've helped me or my clients heal, I want to be very clear that I'm not saying that they are bad books, that the information is incorrect, that they were even poorly written. I am saying that the information in them for somebody who has chronic constipation, chronic bloating, where you have already tried clean eating, eating organic, going gluten-free, going dairy-free, low FODMAP diet, reducing stress, eating fiber, drinking water, chewing your food more. Like, you kind of know the list. I don't really want to go, we're not going to go over those same things. But unfortunately, for most of the books the 3 books that I am going to list as my worst ones, they are very educational on a basic level. They're very true on a basic level, but it's really not enough to help the bad cases, the cases where you are trying to read a book because nothing else has worked. And I remember when I was early on in my process in 2015, 2016 of being sick, I had no awareness. I just had no awareness that there was a category of gut health stuff that didn't work. And it made me feel really broken. And it made me feel a lot of despair. So I'm going to mention these books, and I hope that if the author ever listened to this episode, they would understand why I said this for the specific population of people who are trying everything to heal and can't. And I talk a lot about this on other episodes of my podcast. So hi, if you're new to the Better Belly podcast, we deal with chronic complex conditions where you've tried everything to heal and nothing has worked, whether it's for your gut or for your hormones, for your skin, for brain fog. We've done it all. And the way this is designed is not just to teach you how to eat a salad or to put flaxseed in your smoothie so you have more fiber. All right. If you are looking for more information on like why the heck did I just talk down like all the most common causes or all the most common solutions given for example, constipation, go check out episode 204 in this podcast, the Better Belly podcast, which is the top gut health myth episodes that I've done in the podcast. That just talks about, the constipation magnesium myth. Does magnesium actually help? And why probiotics aren't healing your gut, and why the low FODMAP diet hasn't helped your gut, why the elimination diet hasn't helped your gut. And if you want to kind of hear me dive into each of those, I will systematically break it down for you in those other episodes. And I'll put a link in the show notes to episode 204, where you can hear me talk more about all the different myth busting episodes we have in this podcast. But moving on, let's talk about the books that did not heal me or my clients. And then after that, we're going to talk about the 3 ones that I actually refer to this day. Like most of the books that I'm going to mention, I read several years ago for the first time, and I still bring them up on my phone as a Kindle book and have them highlighted everywhere and search for different sections to go and use them in protocols, answer, and like just come up with ideas for how to heal clients. So that will be the second part. First part. Book number 1 that doesn't work. This was the book that the young lady was reading at the bookstore. And again, not a bad book. I'm going to be very clear. It's not lying. It's not untrue. It just hasn't helped anybody that I know, whether me or my clients. The Mind-Gut Connection by Emerin Mayer, who's an MD. Beautiful book on how our emotions can be driven by problems in the gut and how our mind can affect functionality in the gut. The mind-gut connection. It's a very important concept. It very much can be impacting clients, but I find that it is so easy to turn to the mind-gut connection as the answer for problems that doctors don't know how to solve. So they will go to, it's your stress. But at the end of the day, when I look back, I'm like, well, I actually had blastocystis hominis, which is a parasite. I had H. pylori. I had a gluten sensitivity, which unfortunately, when I got rid of gluten, didn't solve all my problems because I still had the parasite. I still had H. pylori. And I had a candida overgrowth and low stomach acid and a congested liver. So I couldn't detox estrogen very, very well. And just overall low hormones. With the hormones that I did have were actually very low, which is why I had no period because I couldn't digest food. And my doctor said it was my brain's fault. And I believed them, and I left my job to try and reduce stress, totally changed my career pathway, and it didn't help. And what I ended up finding years later was I had all these other problems that are real in your body. And if you are blaming it on the mind, first, usually what I'm seeing is that we are cutting off your other problems, the other problems that are at the bottom of it. And unfortunately, the mind-gut connection doesn't talk about mold toxicity. It doesn't talk about parasites. It doesn't talk about H. pylori. And there's reasons for that, which I'm not going to get into today because it's written from a very traditional medicine standpoint. What it does cover on how the mind and gut are connected is still true, and it's very thorough on that. It gives lots of research points on it, but it has not helped any of my clients. I've had a couple clients who the mind-gut connection has been a real component. It's not by no means the only component of what they were dealing with, but I'd say I can count the number of those clients on one hand who were like the mind-gut connection was genuinely a key component to them healing. Cool. All right. Next book. Also, I actually enjoyed reading this book, but it did not help me or my clients heal. Remember, that's the criteria. Gut by Julia Enders. Julia is spelled Giulia. It's hilarious. It has these cute pictures of the gut. It's not actually the gut, but cute pictures, showcasing different components of the gut. It's so cute. It's very readable, very lay friendly, meaning just like you don't have to be a doctor to read it. And it's going to be really great for somebody who's really introductory to the gut. It does not teach you how to heal it. It points to the same old stuff, take probiotics, move around, do exercise, etc., and it's not going to heal you. So I even actually did take some brand photos for my business, and you can actually see me holding this book because it says gut, and it seems like on brand, like we talk about the gut. But I don't ever refer to this book, and I don't even recommend clients to read it because it doesn't have the information you need to heal. All right. Second Brain is the third book. Okay, not to be confusing. Third book is called The Second Brain by Michael D. Gershon, who's an MD. This book was really hard to read. It's The Opposite of Gut by Julie Enders. Very not friendly. It's very dense. And it's written by a researcher on how he discovered that serotonin was primarily made in the gut, which is actually, there's a couple points in the book that I felt like I was reading a thriller because the process of the scientific process is so arduous, and being accepted by the scientific community for a new theory that everyone's like, this is ridiculous. Why would a neurotransmitter be made in the gut? And it was so hard to do the science behind it that it was just very, very very engaging. So I understand now why like SSRIs, serotonin reuptake inhibitors, do affect the gut, because the gut needs serotonin to move. And so if you're inhibiting the uptake of serotonin, that can actually throw off, it can cause problems with both constipation, diarrhea, etc. So SSRIs, if you're taking it as an antidepressant, can also throw off GI function. Great, very interesting book. Scientifically, doesn't really teach anyone how to heal. All right. So the next books are the top books that I actually personally refer to when building protocols, double checking my work, and I'm looking for ideas on how to help a client, helping myself or my family. These books are chock full of great information. And what's interesting, the only disclaimer on them, which you're about to find out, is that none of them are explicitly gut health books. However, they touch on things that can affect gut health in terms of the experience, like are you getting bloating, are you getting constipation? And they touch on things that gut health affects, like hormones. So let's talk about this. Number one, first book, the book I probably refer to the most, where if I'm building a protocol, I'm hearing a client experience, I'm thinking about what could be going on that even though they're doing all the right things, they're not getting better, is Dirty Genes by Dr. Ben Lynch. And in this book, he talks about the most common gene mutations that are affecting methylation. And it's, if off the top of my head, COMT, the MAOA gene, both the fast and slow variants, the MTHFR, NOS3. Guys, what's the other ones? Those are at least some of them. So if you've never heard of any of those, or you've heard about MTHFR, which is the one most people have heard of, but you don't know a ton about it, or you want to double check and make sure you understand it as good as possible, Dr. Ben Lynch takes very complex ideas and makes them very understandable. And he talks about, he gives client examples and stories for each one. Like, this client looked like a COMT dysfunction because of these symptoms when she came into my office, and this is what I recommended for her. And these are the types of things I recommend for somebody who's dealing with a fast or slow COMT or a fast or slow MAOA. And I love it. I eat it up. I will, disclaimer, say that I do not think, at least for the clients that I've been dealing with, that just addressing like diet and lifestyle is enough, but he's very clear diet and lifestyle is not enough. You have to address toxins. And he digs a little into sources of toxins. He doesn't give a lot of like, here's the specific lab I recommend, here's supplements I recommend to get rid of the toxins that could be on these tests, which is what we really get into in the Better Belly Blueprint, which is what are your specific problems. But he's very clear that excess toxins cause dysfunction in genes, even a gene that isn't, like if you got a gene test and you had none of the gene mutations that everyone likes to talk about or that he talks about. Even if you had a perfect genome, if you had a lot of toxins, those genes can literally act dirty, is what he says. They act as if they were a gene mutation. So toxins reign supreme in their ability to make dysfunction in the body over your, genetic future of like, I'm a genetic god, I have no problems. Enough toxins, you can have problems. Or like every gene is broken. I have all the gene mutations. If that's the case, you can still get those genes to behave better than they currently are and live a minimally disturbed life. And he really gets into those concepts. Love, love, love the book. All right, book number 2 that I do refer to is Beyond the Pill by Dr. Jolene Brighton. This is a hormone book. It focuses on women who have post-birth control syndrome, meaning that when they come off birth control, they feel worse. than either when they started or at least as bad as when they started the pill. Because the birth control pill doesn't help anybody. It doesn't fix anything. It can get rid of symptoms, but it can actually add to the problem. And she gets into the science of that, which is first off really key, because so many doctors are going to say birth control pill doesn't cause problems. Yes, it does. And if you want to like not just hear someone say that, if you want to watch them walk you through the science of all the aspects of the body birth control throws off, she's going to do it in that book. And then I've never come across a book that does this. I'm like, I kind of want to create the gut health version of what she does in Beyond the Pill, where she's like, literally do this test. And she gets both into traditional tests like blood work, get this piece of blood work done. And then she'll also talk about advanced testing, functional testing, like the Dutch test, which is the urine-based test we do for hormones. And she says, get the Dutch test, look for these markers, which is beautiful. It's very advanced in that way, but if you're willing to stick with it, when I read it, I'm like, you could literally buy this, I don't know, $15 book, $20 book. And if you follow the steps and can find a way to get access to a Dutch test and buy the supplements she recommends, she's so crystal clear. And I'm like, you could heal so many problems. Now, I don't remember her talking about getting rid of parasites or mold toxicity or, I think she does talk about food sensitivities in the book. So if there's those deeper layers again, the book will not heal you completely. But if you're really just one of those people who you don't have those layers going on, this book could 100% turn someone around. And I think it could at least reduce, depending on what you have going on, if you follow the book, you might be able to reduce symptoms at least by 50%, even if you still have other problems going on. It's I'm very impressed with the book every time I go to refer to it. She has sections on hair loss and, or like losing hair. What if you're balding in the front of the head, the back of the head, the whole head? Is it, do you have unwanted hair growth on your face, on your arms? Like she breaks everything down, has a great section on like just a quiz to say, do you have estrogen dominance? Do you have too little estrogen? Do you have too little progesterone? What's your testosterone like? It's a little questionnaire quiz. And so you can get a sense of what hormones are most likely out of balance. So it just feels like almost like a workbook. It's really thorough. Love that book. All right. Also not a gut health book, but just generally relates to the gut and is actually a book I refer to and I've used in my own family is number 3, The Eczema Epidemic by Dr. Anna Maria Temple. Now, this is focused on pediatric eczema, but it applies to adults. She does get fairly detailed with like recommendations she has, mainly for peds that are problems, and she gets a lot into the literature and the research on eczema and how eczema might stop as a kid but develop into other problems like asthma. There's a huge correlation between eczema and asthma. And like literally you can determine how likely someone is to get asthma later in life by if they had eczema as a child. Really great book. I used it when my daughter was getting some eczema. Very mild, definitely not as bad as some cases you can see online. But I was like, I have a general sense of what I would want to do, but I want to hear it from the expert. And I like read the book. I read it in I think less than a day because I bullet pointed the whole book for the most part, found the application points, found what I felt was already missing. There was stuff I was like, I'm already doing that for my daughter, this. I'm not giving her zinc. I'm not giving her a fish oil supplement. I'm not giving her the specific probiotic she recommends. I will try that. And it dramatically improved her skin health. So that's 3. Fun fact, I'm adding in 2 more because I found 3 books I didn't like for gut health. And then I found a 5 that I actually do like that. Again, they're more whole body health. They will help the gut. They cannot not help the gut. But again, I actually don't have any perfect book for the gut, which is actually why in 2019, I wrote a book called Stop Stomach Pain. If you go to betterbellytherapies.com/book, you can go and buy the book in print or as an ebook and read Stop Stomach Pain. It's in full color. It has graphs and images, and it needs to be updated and revised because I've learned so much since 2019 that I would love to put into the book. That I like talk about on the podcast that I haven't been able to put into it. But I literally wrote that because I was like, there's no good gut health books on the market that are like gut health. And they will just tell you, get these labs, take these supplements, look out for these toxins. Here's what markers to look for on those labs. I'm excited to write that book, but it is a huge project. So in the meantime, I have my 2019 version. And if you want to go check that out, you can get it as an ebook or as a print copy, betterbellytherapies.com/book. Anyways, the next 2 books, again, can bring in gut health problems, but they're not gut health specific. The first one is The Devil in the Garlic by Dr. Greg Nye. And this jumps into a problem of something called sulfur sensitivity. And in populations like recurrent SIBO, and which is actually one of the big things, recurrent SIBO in particular, but a lot of like supplement sensitivity is a big thing. You want to consider, is there a sulfur sensitivity problem going on? And if you've never heard what that is, he literally breaks it down. And it's not an easy concept, unfortunately. I would say, I feel like there's a lot of easier concepts we talk about. So when you do read it, be prepared to be like an initial hump of trying to understand scientifically what's going on with this sulfur problem that he's describing. But the symptoms are very interesting. Then what to do about it. He literally is like, this is my sulfur protocol I do in my clinic. And I'm like, literally have used that on clients to evaluate, do they potentially have sulfur sensitivity going on? So again, a very clear book that has a clearly laid out roadmap and education that I think really could heal people. And if you have sulfur sensitivity, then that book is going to be like a manual guide for you. All right, so the last one is back to peds a little, The Vaccine-Friendly Plan by Dr. Paul Thomas. And I loved this book because, and I'm mentioning it even for adults, because even though if we're an adult, we're typically past the majority of decisions you need to make around vaccines. When you read the book, say you have children, maybe they don't have health problems yet, I still think it's a great book to read. He is a traditionally trained MD doctor who grew up in Zimbabwe and saw people dying from diseases that could have been prevented by vaccines. So when he moved to America and then started being a physician, he had no reason to not trust vaccines. And then as he was practicing more over the decades as a pediatrician, he was seeing more and more kids having more. In particular, he was troubled by the increased rates of autism. And so as he looked into the literature, he realized that no one vaccine has more toxins than the FDA is regulating, but the cumulative number of vaccines has increased to the point that the toxins are 10, 20, 30 times higher than what they should be for dosage for a 0 to 12-month-old baby, a 1 to 2-year-old, a 2 to 5-year-old, et cetera. And so I went into the book thinking, this is a couple months ago when I read it, I went into the book thinking, I'm just going to learn about vaccines. And he was so holistic. He really talked about, it's not just the vaccines toxins, it's the pesticides and the herbicides and the air we're breathing and the water we're drinking. And it really felt like this is such a functional medicine book. He's a little less tactile, like this is what lab to do to look into this problem. This is the exact supplement to take. The thing he's the most tactile with is, this is my recommended vaccine plan that I do with the kids in my clinic, because he's still a pediatrician. He has a clinic in Portland, and he just says, this is what I do. I get rid of all these other ones that I find are less relevant unless you feel that your child is at an increased risk for one of these other problems. And he tells you which illnesses he's going to cover and things that are worth covering with vaccines and which vaccines to get that are lower in toxins. He really is very clear on that. And that felt really actionable. And that can prevent not just gut health problems, autoimmune, neurological problems in children by lowering their toxins. In next week's episode, I'm going to be talking about the 3 most common causes of supplement sensitivity, meaning when you take a supplement, even really simple ones like a B complex, like you can feel really bad, really gnarly. If you're curious what I'm talking about, subscribe, check out next week's episode. But in that episode, I talk about one of the things that can cause supplement sensitivity is toxin overload. And toxin overload doesn't start in your 20s. It starts in the womb as you're being grown, and your first day of life and your 5th day of life. So there's a lot of things that can accumulate over time, and toxin overload can deeply affect your ability to detox and your sensitivity to new toxins every year of your life, whether that's maybe it's perfumes now or candle scents or smoke or mold. All those toxins you're going to be so much more sensitive to if you've been accumulating them over time. So those are my top 3 best and worst gut health books to heal your gut, plus the 2 bonus ones, and sort of mine that I mentioned. But I really think that the Stop Stomach Pain does not yet rival the Better Belly Blueprint, though I want it one day to be like the summarized version of the Better Belly Blueprint in terms of how in-depth it gets and how tactile it gets. But it's a great overview of the gut. And I think I include, for example, fascial exercises to help release the gut. I include meditations to do, like literally links to audios that I recorded to help the gut. So those are things that you can actually get tactfully in the book. But if you really want to heal your gut, if you are tired of being sick, if you're tired of books that don't give you the right information, and you're like, Allison, none of the books you mentioned are like actually fully for the gut or give you exactly every lab you need, exactly every protocol you would need with the right dosing, and teaching you how to not take what you don't need, not doing things you don't need, saving you money, then join the Better Belly Blueprint. Go to betterbellytherapies.com/training. You can watch a little video on how the Better Belly Blueprint works, or if you don't have time for the video, just scroll down below the video. There's a summary of how it works, how you can join, and what's included inside of it. It's lifetime group coaching where you literally can ask a question Monday through Friday inside of a Facebook group, get an answer literally one-to-one from a coach, or come to a live group coaching call bi-weekly where you can chat with me and get questions answered live, and we can have a conversation about stuff if something's feeling confusing. But generally, just finally get to the root cause. Get access to labs, get access to answers, get access to support so you know you're headed in the right direction to heal. So go to betterbellytherapies.com/training, get access to learning about the Better Belly Blueprint program, and then join. Let's heal. I would love to see you in there and get rid of the bloating, constipation, acid reflux, PMS, hormone imbalance, everything you have going on. Let's deal with it. And I will catch you guys next week. Hey friend, I hope you loved this episode. If you've been a fan for a while or newly loving this podcast, can you do me a favor? Drop into Apple Podcasts and leave me a review. When you leave a review, you do so much. You help me know you're listening. You can tell me what you're loving so I know what to make more of. And you help others by boosting this podcast so other people like you can find the podcast too. I mean, it's a win-win-win, right? So if you want a way to pay it forward, just go to Apple Podcasts or click the link in my show notes and leave a rating and review. And if you want some more free stuff, just head over to my free Facebook group, betterbellytherapies.com/Facebook, and you can get access to all of my free support for you, including some Facebook group exclusive stuff like my podcast episode vault, where you can search the Better Belly podcast by topic and find exactly what you need to expedite your healing. I cannot wait to see you in there. Catch you guys next week.